Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 252, the Ice Cave. And this episode is a little weird because it has never really aired in the dub. It's been exclusively in Japan and other areas as far as I know. So hopefully I'm still pretty accurate, and hopefully Cerebi, the guide that I'm using to help me out, is also pretty accurate, because a lot of the other ones probably won't be, since this didn't air in the dub. But anyways, let's get on with the summary, shall we? The episode begins with Ash and the gang on their way to Blackthorn City as usual. Ash was extremely excited to get to Blackthorn City as they were getting really close, and that meant that he was just one step closer to his final gym badge. As Ash and the gang were walking down the road, Brock pulled out his guidebook and explained some fun facts about Blackthorn City, while also mentioning that there was apparently two ways to get to the city. This was confirmed as Ash and the gang soon arrived at a split path, with Brock finding out through his guidebook that one path led to a mountain which led to Blackthorn City, and another path led to a cave known as the Ice Cave that led to Blackthorn City, and apparently the Ice Cave was a shortcut, so Ash and the gang decided to head through that way. Misty was a bit hesitant, as she was worried about the ice, but Ash told her that they'd been walking on solid ground in forests for so long that he wanted to change of pace. When Ash and the gang finally managed to reach the ice cave, unbeknownst to them, Team Rocket was spying on them from some bushes. And they actually ran into the ice cave before Ash and the gang so that they could implement a plan of digging a pitfall trap as usual. Shortly after Team Rocket had laid their trap, Ash and the gang had arrived inside of the cave and were having trouble walking as it was slippery as fuck due to the ice, but eventually they were able to get the hang of it, until they had to walk downhill, which caused Brock to slip and bump into everyone else, causing everyone to slip as well. To make matters worse, they fall down a little incline in the icy cave, and it leads them straight into Team Rocket's pitfall trap, which they barely could recognize as they almost passed out when they fell. Since they were almost passed out, they were a bit dazed when they fell into the hole, so when they saw two snowmen appear next to them above the hole and start to talk, they felt like they were going absolutely fucking insane. But then, the snowmen revealed themselves to just be Team Rocket in disguise, as they then did their motto and stated their plan to steal Pikachu. Yeah, that's right, they had a basic-ass plan this time. Although, even though they had a basic-ass goal, their actual plan was more unorthodox and pretty brutal compared to their usual plan, as they proceeded to get out hoses out of seemingly fucking nowhere and fill the hole with water, trying to drown Ash and the gang so that they could just take Pikachu out. However, Ash and Misty were quickly able to dispose of Team Rocket before they could drown, as Ash simply told Pikachu to use Thunderbolt, which shocked Team Rocket, and then Misty sent out her Politoed and had to use Water Gun to send Team Rocket blasting off. Ash and the gang then quickly climbed up out of the hole and tried to dry themselves off, although it was pretty hard due to the freezing ice cave. And Brock was hit even harder, as not only was he wet, but the combination of the wetness and coldness had now gave him the flu. Thankfully, Brock remembered from his guidebook that there was a Pokémon Center just outside of the ice cave, so if they managed to get out, then they would find it. So Ash and the gang continued through the ice cave as Brock wrapped in a blanket, and eventually they came across the final area of the cave that was a large ice dome that had some light at the literal end of the tunnel that was being blocked by a few ice rocks. So they moved the rocks, only to find that the ice cave actually continued, but the Pokemon Center was actually just located inside of the ice cave, so they went inside. Ash and the gang were expecting to find a Pokemon Center that looked a bit different on the inside due to the weird-ass location of it being in a literal cave, but Ash and the gang were surprised as the center looked just like any other center, although it appeared not to have a Nurse Joy, seemingly being entirely empty. Ash knew that this couldn't possibly be the case though, so he called out for Nurse Joy, but instead of a Nurse Joy, or even her Chansey, a Jinx came by. Ash and the gang briefly theorized that Jinx could have overtaken Nurse Joy, but suddenly, Nurse Joy revealed herself, apologizing for being late, and asking if there was anything wrong, admitting that she wasn't used to that many customers, so she wasn't always on deck, so that's why she left her Jinx in charge. But before Ash and the gang could explain what was wrong with Brock, Nurse Joy spotted him and saw how bad he looked. She immediately put him into a hospital bed to rest, and Nurse Joy and Jinx proceeded to check Brock's temperature, as Ash and Misty took off their clothes to have them get warmed up by a heater in the center, getting wrapped up in blankets instead. It was then revealed after Nurse Joy had checked Brock's temperature that he had a fever. However, this wasn't even due to his sickness whatsoever, it was just due to the fact that he was flirting with Nurse Joy in his mind, and this obviously got him all hot and bothered. Basically, he was heating up because he was attracted to Nurse Joy, not because he actually had a genuine fever. Since Nurse Joy, Ash, and Misty did think Brock had a fever though, they immediately went out to the lounge of the Pokemon Center to leave Brock to rest so that they wouldn't catch this fever themselves. As soon as they come out to the lounge, Nurse Joy instantly introduces Ash and Misty to several of the other Pokemon in the Pokemon Center that were her own, being a lot of Swinubs and 2 Piloswine, and she then shows them off and plays with them and hugs them, as Ash takes notice of a picture on the wall that featured the Nurse Joy that he, Misty, and Tracy had encountered in the Orange Islands that helped out water Pokemon. Ash then inquires if the two Nurse Joy happen to know each other, leading this Nurse Joy to reveal that the Orange Islands Nurse Joy from the photo was actually her sister, and stated that she was like her sister in that she focused primarily on helping out Pokemon that had a specific typing, only in her case, instead of water Pokemon, it was ice Pokemon, as she really liked ice Pokemon, which explained why all of her assistants and the other Pokemon at the center were all ice types. Nurse Joy then admitted that although she liked helping ice Pokemon, she wasn't too particularly fond of the cold, so that's why she stayed in a lot of the time, and had her Jinx do a lot of the work. Which was proven true, as Jinx fed all of the Piloswine and Swinub, while Ash, Misty, and Nurse Joy overlooked, with Nurse Joy also taking the time to tell Ash and the gang that The reason that the ice cave was so stable and got formed in the first place was because there was a big building in the cave that acted as a refrigerator. Essentially, the cold air from the building was so immense that it created the ice cave. Now that Jinx had fed the Piloswine and Swinub, Ash and the gang went out of the Pokemon Center, with the exception of Brock, obviously, to go watch the Piloswine and Swinub play. Unbeknownst to Ash, Misty, and Nurse Joy, though, Team Rocket was spying on them from a cliff, also watching the Swinub and Piloswine play, and they had immediately set their eyes on capturing them, as well as the Jinx. With Meowth fantasizing about Giovanni potentially giving Team Rocket a promotion because he would enjoy the ice Pokemon so much, as he daydreamed about Giovanni being woken up and cared for by Jinx, and being comforted by the Swinub as he got ready for his day. Jessie, on the other hand, suggested that they keep some of the ice Pokemon for themselves so that they could use them to make snow cones and start up an international snow cone business. James was initially opposed to the idea, but when he thought of all the equipment that could be used to make snow cones, he was attracted to the idea since he liked to build things, utilizing certain equipment. Anyways, with Team Rocket's goal now set, they realized that they were going to have to find a way to weaken the ice Pokemon so they could capture them. They tried to think of a plan, but they just couldn't, since they were way too fucking cold to be able to think. So they soon set off to find a potential source of the cold and try and stop it for some reason, while also heading off to try and find a way to capture the ice Pokemon. They search around for a while as they find both of what they were looking for, being the building that made the ice cave so stable and cold since it controlled its climate that Nurse Joy had mentioned, being a huge air conditioning. The reason why this air conditioning building was both a way to get rid of the cold in the ice cave and also a way to weaken the Piloswine is because Team Rocket could reverse the building's engineering structure with the help of James to heat the cave up and cool the area outside the cave. Meanwhile, as for Brock, back inside the Pokemon Center, he continued to have an immensely high fever as he was dreaming about Nurse Joy taking care of him. His dreams about Nurse Joy were so intense that he began to go insane in the real world and thought that Nurse Joy was treating him in the real world as well, when it was currently Jinx giving him care. Therefore, when Brock spotted Jinx, thinking it was Nurse Joy, he tried to go in for a kiss, which the Jinx obviously reciprocated due to it being a Jinx who loved kissing. But thankfully, right as Brock was about to kiss Jinx, he noticed its true identity and immediately pulled back, as he was freaked out about this. He then stopped being so scared of the Jinx, though, as Jinx still continued to care for him, despite Brock pulling back, as it proceeded to give him some soup and use a little ice beam to freeze a bag of water and put it over Brock's head to help with his fever, not knowing, of course, that it was only due to Nurse Joy. Meanwhile, back with Ash, Misty, and Nurse Joy, who were still outside of the center watching the Piloswine and Swinub play, they heard an alarm sound inside of the Pokemon Center, so they instantly rushed back in, and Joy saw that the alert was coming from her computer that was able to check on the cave's temperature, and she found that it was getting extremely warm, and noted that something was likely wrong with the building that made the ice cave cold, so she decided to go into the ice cave further down with Ash and the gang to discover what was wrong. Before Ash, Misty, and Nurse Joy set off further down the cave, Ash and Misty went over to Jinx and told it to keep looking after Brock while they were gone, and Nurse Joy called over several of her Piloswine and instructed them to pull a sleigh to help them get further down into the cave, and the Piloswine obliged as Ash, Misty, and Nurse Joy hopped on the sleigh and left Jinx with Brock. Soon enough, the Piloswine outfitted with a sleigh were able to drop Ash, Misty, and Nurse Joy off by the air conditioning building, where they saw the air conditioning. And they see that Team Rocket had done just as they planned to do. They reversed the building so that the air conditioning was sending cold air outside of the ice cave and warm air inside. Although, since Ash, Misty, and Nurse Joy had only been inside the ice cave and not outside, even Nurse Joy hadn't been outside for a long period of time, they only knew that the inside of the cave was getting warmer. They had no clue about the outside. Nurse Joy quickly finds the cause of the heat inside of the cave, which was that James had in fact re-engineered the AC machine so that the air duct that was supposed to heat the area outside the cave, being a jungle filled with wild Pokemon, was instead now warming the cave. This led Nurse Joy to become concerned for the jungle that was supposed to be outside of the cave, so she, Ash, and Misty immediately ran out of the cave to check it out, and Nurse Joy confirmed what she was afraid of, being that the jungle area was now cold as opposed to warm, and all the Pokemon that were there, including a Vileplume, Primeape, Stantler, Mankey, and Exeggutor, as well as a Weedle and an Aipom, were all freezing. And this was because the second air duct, being the cooling air duct, was now facing the outside as opposed to the inside. Ash and Misty were confused by how the air conditioning system worked, so Nurse Joy explained that the air conditioning had two ends, one that heats and another that froze, and further explains that the natural air inside of the ice cave was cooled by the cooling duct. But once the air was actually released from the cold duct itself, it began to warm up when it was in the natural air. This didn't affect the actual ice cave, as the air was still cold enough when it was inside of the ice cave to keep it frozen, but as the air traveled outside, it got hotter, and soon reached another duct, which made the air even hotter and spread it out amongst the jungle. Anyways, Nurse Joy was, of course, concerned for all of the Pokemon in the jungle, which were now freezing, but she was also concerned for the cave itself, as if it heated up enough, it would crumble, and therefore crush the Pokemon Center with it. Nurse Joy knew that she had to do something, so she instructed Ash and Misty to help her up to the cold air duct, or at least the air duct that was releasing the cold air currently, so that she could try and re-engineer the re-engineered system to get things back to normal, so that the cave would be cool and the jungle would be heated. However, as Ash and Misty were trying to help Joy up and get her in the perfect position to climb up to the air duct, they proceeded to fall into a pitfall trap dug by Team Rocket along with Nurse Joy, as Team Rocket soon revealed themselves and taunted Ash and the gang. With James bragging about how Ash, Misty, and Nurse Joy had fallen into the pitfall trap thanks to his digging, and the AC had been re-engineered thanks to his engineering, as he proceeded to go on a rant about how he had done this reverse engineering process before Jessie cut him off so that they could do their motto and declare their plan to steal the ice Pokemon as they ran off to go do so. Back into the ice cave, thankfully not bothering with any of the Pokemon in the jungle. As Team Rocket left the hole and made their way to just outside the Pokemon Center, Ash sent out his Bayleaf and had to use Vine Whip to pull Ash, Misty, and Nurse Joy out of the hole. Once they were free, they could then get back to their goal of re-engineering the re-engineered air ducts, and Ash decided to use Bayleaf to help with this as well, as he had to use Vine Whip to grab the air duct that was currently releasing cold air into the jungle, and as Ash and the gang pulled on all of her vines, they were able to flip the air duct around, so that the cold air was now being blown inside of the cave again. Ash, Misty, and Nurse Joy, along with Bayleaf, then make their way back into the cave, and have Bayleaf use Vine Whip again to flip the air duct inside of the cave around, therefore releasing the hot air back into the jungle. Everything was back to normal. Yay! They then all returned to the AC machine and saw from its computer that the cold air and hot air were now in fact being blown where they were supposed to. Not all was well though, as Brock was still immensely sick in the Pokemon Center, laying down, still having his fever due to Nurse Joy, while Team Rocket had arrived outside the Pokemon Center and declared that the Swinub and Piloswine weren't warmed up enough yet, so they managed to construct some heaters, likely due to James's skills, and they used these heaters to render the Swinub and Piloswine useless, as they couldn't stand the heat and couldn't do anything in it. Before Team Rocket could actually capture the weakened Piloswine and Swinub, Jinx had heard the heaters going, so it abandoned Brock momentarily and ran outside the Pokemon Center to try and stop Team Rocket. But Wobbuffet forcibly comes out of its Pokeball to laugh at Jinx, as Meowth then directs a heater in front of her, which weakens the Jinx. Team Rocket laughed at how easy it was to stop the ice Pokemon as they began capturing them in a bag. Brock had woken up from all the commotion, including Jinx's screaming, Team Rocket's laughing, and the blaring sound of the heaters, so he decided to go outside of the Pokemon Center to investigate, despite still being severely weakened by his flu. And as soon as he went outside, he spotted Team Rocket, as well as Jinx passed out, and Piloswine and Swinub all getting captured. So, Brock realized that he was going to have to stop Team Rocket all on his own this time, as he sent out his Geodude, as Jessie sent out her Arbok, and the two Pokemon began battling, with Geodude trying to use Tackle on Arbok. But Geodude's small body didn't do much against Arbok, as Arbok retaliated with a tackle of its own, as well as a headbutt, which was powerful enough to send Geodude flying directly into Brock, knocking them both down, giving Arbok the opportunity to further weaken the two of them, as it used Wrap to wrap them in its tail and quickly release them when it slammed them to the ground repeatedly, injuring Brock and Geodude. With Brock down and Geodude unable to defend itself, Team Rocket proceeded to steal Geodude and put it in the bag, along with all of the ice Pokemon, including Jinx as well. Brock tried to get up and save his Geodude, as well as the ice Pokemon, but he was too weak to do anything. Thankfully though, Ash, Misty, and Nurse Joy then arrived, being pulled by the Piloswine in a sled, since they had known, of course, that Team Rocket was going after the ice Pokemon, so they wanted to save them. Team Rocket were immensely surprised to see Ash, Misty, and Nurse Joy escape the hole, and were even more surprised as Ash, Misty, and Nurse Joy then jumped out of the sled, and Misty and Nurse Joy directed their attention to Brock to make sure he was alright, while Ash started dealing with Team Rocket as he sent out his Totodile, instructing it to battle Jessie's Arbok. James saw that Arbok would likely lose, so he wanted to give it an advantage, as he sent out his Victreebel, although of course Victreebel ate him first. Misty then directed her attention from Brock to the incoming battle, as she saw that Ash was now at a 2-to-1 disadvantage, so she sent out her Corsola to help. So it was now Corsola and Totodile versus Arbok and Victreebel. Victreebel was down for the count quick though, as it was still eating James when Corsola used Tackle on it to knock it down, sending both it and James flying. As for Totodile versus Arbok, Arbok was quickly weakened by Totodile's bite. With Arbok and Victreebel both down, Ash and Misty told Team Rocket to give up, but Jessie refused, as she actually sent out her Wobbuffet to battle. Corsola went to tackle Wobbuffet, but Wobbuffet sent the attack back at Corsola using a counter. Totodile jumps in to help out Corsola as he uses Water Gun on Wobbuffet, but Wobbuffet simply reflects this attack back as well, hitting both Totodile and Corsola, knocking them both down. forcing Ash and Misty to recall Totodile and Corsola as Arbok and Victreebel got back up and joined Wobbuffet on the battlefield, leaving Ash and Misty in a terrible position as they were about to be attacked themselves by the three Pokemon. Thankfully, though, Ash noticed that the air ducts being re-engineered to their original states was finally beginning to take effect, as a whole bunch of cold air was now entering the cave. Ash knew that this cold air would be enough for all of the Piloswine and Swinub, as well as Jinx, to regain their strength and break free from captivity. So, Ash told Pikachu to use Thunderbolt to destroy the heaters so that only cold air could circulate throughout the cave again, and sure enough, Piloswine and Swinub and Jinx were all able to free themselves from the bag, with Geodude coming out as well. With all of the ice Pokemon having regained their strength now, Joy ordered Jinx to use Lovely Kiss on Wobbuffet to stop it from countering, and had the Piloswine and Swinub use Powder Snow to weaken Team Rocket. But even with Jinx using Powder Snow as well, Nurse Joy saw that this wasn't a strong enough ice attack, so she instead ordered the Swinub, Piloswine, and Jinx to all use Blizzard, which froze Arbok, Victreebel, and Wobbuffet in place. To finish Team Rocket off, Pikachu then uses Thunderbolt to send them blasting off, as they clinged on to their frozen Pokemon. With Team Rocket gone, Ash, Misty, Brock, and Nurse Joy, along with the Piloswine, Swinub, and Jinx, and Brock's Geodude, returned to the Pokemon Center. After a bit more treatment from Jinx, Brock was finally feeling better, and his fever was now gone as well, since he had somehow managed to stop dreaming about Nurse Joy. So, with that, Brock thanked Jinx for treating him, and Nurse Joy thanked Ash and the gang for all their help with saving the ice cave and the jungle. Ash and the gang informed Nurse Joy that they were trying to get to Blackthorn City, and Nurse Joy reveals that there was two exits to the ice cave, one leading towards the jungle and the other leading towards Blackthorn City. So Ash and the gang said goodbye to Nurse Joy, Jinx, Piloswine, and Swinub as they continued onwards through the ice cave, eventually coming out and reaching Blackthorn Lake. Brock soon spots Blackthorn City on the other side of the lake and informs Ash and Misty that once they cross this lake, they would finally be at the destination of Ash's final gym badge. So with that, the episode ends as Ash and the gang ran off towards the lake, ready to get to Blackthorn City to get Ash's final badge.